Hello and welcome to the United on Wheels podcast. I'm your host, Paul Amadeus Lane, and I'm so delighted to have you on this episode today. Why? We're going to be joined by a very, very special guest. I say that all the time because all of our guests are special, but this one in particular, he's so awesome. And I had an opportunity to meet him several years ago at an Abilities Expo here in Los Angeles. And he was working the booth, had the New Mobility magazine, and I was checking it out. I was like, hey, I'm in the entertainment world. Hey, how do I get featured? And he wouldn't really give me the time of day. But many years later, I was able to continue to see him at the Abilities Expo, and he and I would chop it up. And just an all around awesome person. And we are so delighted to have him on the show to talk about his journey, what he's doing now, and some amazing insights that we all can take from his example. So do me a favor. Make sure you share this episode with ones who may be newly injured or ones who you think could benefit of being encouraged and being shown what can happen if we do not give up. And also, if you know any businesses out there who may not be aware of the great things that are going on at United Spinal Association, share this with them too, because we're going to get into some great insights about the organization and some amazing things that are going to happen real soon. But before we bring on our first guest and only guest, I want to direct you to our website, unitedspinal.org. And there you can check out this amazing website. What does it highlight? Our advocacy, our empowerment, and our independence. You can also find out some other great things to support membership, know your rights, who are part of the disabled community. You can find those rights out and the different resources too. Wonderful website, great things. So let's bring on our very special guest. He is the VP of Partnerships at the United Spinal Association, and I'm so delighted to call him a friend. I am so delighted to have with me right now my next guest. He is the one, the only United Spinal's own Nick LiBassi. Nick, what is up, brother? How are you?
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and excited to get a chance to speak with you. I'm doing
Absolutely.
great.
Great to hear. You know what, Nick, I remember when we first met, and I kind of mentioned this in the intro of the show at the Abilities Expo many years ago. You were showing off the New Mobility magazine. You and I had a chat together, and lo and behold, several years later, Nick, we're working together at United Spinal. It's pretty awesome, isn't
Yeah, it's here we are. It's crazy how things fall into place sometimes.
it? Tell me about it. And Nick, through the many years that I've known you and just known about you, there's one word that really comes to my mind when I think of you, and probably a lot of people's minds who know you too, Nick, and that is,
Good looking.
yeah, that too, that too, that too. But I would say resilient. Um, Nick, you have been through a lot, like many of us in the spinal cord
Yeah.
community. But what I admire about you, Nick, just your demeanor, your attitude, it inspires me, who's a part of this community, and no doubt others who are new to this community. And Nick, what I wanted to do for some of the ones who may not be familiar of the series of events that left you in a wheelchair, do you mind sharing that with us, please, briefly?
Yeah, of course. So in 1996, let me go back 2 years. In 1994, I started skydiving. I did a tandem jump, and I have video. I had it recorded the first jump that I did tandem, and as soon as I hit the ground, the camera caught me saying, "How do I get to do this on my own?" And from that spot on the landing strip to my car, I had signed up to go back in 2 weeks. I took a week off of work, and I spent 1 week. I did 25 jumps. Ultimately, became solo. Was able to do it solo and started skydiving. So I had many jumps. I did it for 2 years. November 16th, 1996. I was in a midair collision at 15,300 feet with another skydiver collided with me. And my parachute didn't deploy. I was able to get my reserve out, but it had tangled around my leg. When we collided in midair, my femur snapped and went behind my leg. And when my reserve came out, it wrapped around. So it never deployed. Um, so I landed. I was able to get myself over some trees. I landed in the woods, and I didn't pass out or anything, but I knew right away I had broken my back, my pelvis, my hip, my tibia, my fibia. I had bruising in my kidneys, and I had an L1 burst fracture. I was airlifted to a hospital where I had multiple surgeries, about 16 and a half hours. They stabilized me, and I woke up actually at a surgery and found out I was paralyzed. I was not going into surgery. I was able to move, although I was in a lot of pain and a lot of broken bones. But I woke up out of surgery, and I woke up. I could remember just waking up. My eyes were just so swollen from all the anesthesia. And I remember I had shaving cream, and the nurse was shaving me. So I looked at her, and as soon as she saw me open my eyes, she wiped my face, and she said, "Mr. LiBassi, I want you to wiggle your toes." And I wiggled my toes, and then she flipped the sheets over, and she said, "I'd like you to look at your toes when you wiggle them." And I was looking and wiggling, and they weren't moving. And then I don't really remember a lot. I must have went back to sleep. And the next thing I remember is my girlfriend and my family standing over me crying because they had heard the news. So like everyone, and you talk about resilience. I mean, there's nothing special about me. I mean, we're all, it's the human spirit and the human nature. It's amazing. I mean, I see people all the time that just, you either make it or you don't. And it's all about how you just frame it. And I'm not saying that I went from that stage to where I am today. It took a long process. It's still a process. But for me, I was just so tired, 6-7 months. I was so tired of being depressed and thinking about all the things that I couldn't do. I believe in God. I grew up a Christian Catholic. I was an altar boy. I remember I cried one night. My mom had bought me a St. Jude candle that burned for like 40 hours, and I didn't leave my room until the candle went out. But I said to myself that when that candle goes out, I'm not going to be depressed anymore. And the candle went out, and I left the room the next day, went to outpatient physical therapy, and I really never looked back. And it's just because I just refused to let it beat me. And I'm glad I did, because I have a great life. I've had a lot of great things in my life since then, and look forward to the things that'll come in the future.
And Nick, you were like me, relatively young. We both had our accidents, and I know, like, for me personally, it took me a minute to be readjusted mentally and emotionally myself, because I went from doing this to now not sure, what I'm going to do. And I know for me personally, what really helped me out was meeting ones who were a part of our new normal, ones who were paralyzed, either paras or quads or any mobility issues they were having. That really helped me. And that's one thing, Nick, that I really appreciate about United Spinal, is that just the support group that it has for ones who are part of our community, but also just helping us to be readjusted, especially ones who are newly injured, or ones who may not be familiar with the organization and some of the resources that they have. And Nick, what was your first interaction or your first introduction to United Spinal, and how did that kind of help you on with your journey?
Yeah, so I think, like many others, early on, you're looking for it's a lot different now. I mean, in 1996, it's 20 something years ago. Might not really be that long, but technology wise, it's a long way off. I mean, emails weren't prevalent back then. Cell phones had just started to come out. Not very few had cell phones. So trying to research things on the internet was kind of vague. It was all dial up. So a lot of it was really just speaking with people and magazines, reading what you could. I was introduced to PN News and Sports and Spokes when I was in the hospital. So early on, I got to see, I think when you're first injured like that, you're thinking, what am I going to be able to do with my life? And then when you see people, fishing and skiing and doing all these different things, I don't necessarily think you put yourself in that position, but you start to think that there are things out there that I'll be able to do. And I know one of those magazines was New Mobility Magazine, which is United Spinal Association's membership magazine. But it wasn't back then. United Spinal, in fact, was Eastern Paralyzed Veterans back then. But again, within a couple of years of my injury, I had met some people at PVA and at Eastern Paralyzed Veterans, and formed some relationships. And years later, when Eastern Paralyzed Veterans became United Spinal, I was asked to sit on the board of directors. And I was one of the first board members when they changed their bylaws to sit on the board that wasn't a veteran. And ultimately, while I was on the board, we approved the absorption of National Spinal Cord Injury Association, which enhanced our membership and gave us a chapter component. And we also acquired New Mobility Magazine to use as our membership magazine. So I think that, again, with the technology the way it is, everything is readily at a phone now. If you're in a rehab hospital, you're more than likely going to have your phone or your iPad with you. There's a lot of things that you could look up. So I was thankful that United Spinal and PVA groups like that were around, and I'm happy that we're here today. It really drives me in all the work that I do to make sure that I keep that in mind. I always think about when I was first injured, the hope of speaking to others, meeting others, and just seeing other people's stories.
Yeah. And Nick, I know, like with me, I was one of those where I didn't want to hear it. I really didn't want to hear from members of the community or anything, because I was just so into my own self, my own feelings, as my wife say. I'm all in my feelings. So I was in my feelings, and I didn't really want to hear anything. But for ones out there who may be going through those emotions now, I think hearing that just really shows the importance of being a part of different chapters, different communities out there that can definitely help us out, because life does go on and we have to continue to live. We can either learn from this, or we can just not learn from it and just stall with ever growth that we have within ourselves. I remember I used to say this one saying that never prevent the fear of the unknown stop you from doing great things. And sometimes when we build up these walls, we're like, I'm just done. I mean, and if Nick, if you would have did that, if I would have did that, our paths never would have crossed. And it just really shows just how important it is, just organizations like United Spinal Association and others out there that can really help us out. And Nick, when you look at where we're at today with the movement of empowerment, we know we're getting ready to start a new campaign here, Strong Will Together. That's going to be really awesome. Yep. And when you hear that phrase, or you think about that campaign that's getting ready to launch for United Spinal Association, what comes to your mind, especially through the many years you've been a part of this organization?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in meetings since the conception of Strong Wheeled campaign and Strong Wheeled Together. And I think if you take each word individually, you can come up with a story for each one. I think combined, it really just talks about the movement of the community. And for me, it's more than just the people that live with spinal cord injuries. It's raising awareness to people outside of the immediate community. We're mainstream. We're not just wheelchair users and in our own little world. I'm actually heading up the fitness and athletics portion of the Strong Willed campaign this year. And the main focus is going to be, there's several different things that we're doing, but the main focus is really going to be to raise awareness both inside the community for, like we spoke about before, newly injured that may not know that water skiing, snow skiing, hand cycling, wheelchair yoga, all these different things are available and accessible, but also to the outside community, like these mainstream, like Gatorade. You see all these Gatorade commercials, people pole vaulting and, throwing javelins and, what about us? What about our sports? We do the same things. We need the electrolytes, and I'm just using that as one example, but outside the community, outside the direct community, just making it more acceptable and more, not so much of a sideshow, just more commonly accepted. And you're starting to see that with a lot of commercials now. I think you see when you watch like Kohl's and, all these big superstores, generally they'll have a wheelchair. You see a wheelchair user somewhere in the mix. So it's kind of cool because it's not, it destigmatizes it. I've said since I was injured, I much rather children than adults when I was first injured, because a kid would come up to you and say, "What's wrong with you?" And I would rather have that, than someone stare at you, like an adult just stare at you. And like, I don't know, it's just weird. So I think by the more exposure and the more awareness we raise, about our life and the active lifestyle. And I think New Mobility does a great job of that as well. I just think it takes away a lot of that. I don't even want to say stigma, but it just takes a lot. It just takes away some of the negativity with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know when I first got injured, my fiance at the time, we were supposed to be married that year in '93 because I had injured in '93,
Mhm.
and paid for the reception hall and everything. Things are ready to roll. And then I was in the hospital for 8 months, so we didn't get married in 1993. We ended up getting married like 3 years later.
Right.
But when we got married, we were like an enigma. We were like a few who were in relationships with a person who had a disability and someone who didn't.
Yeah.
And through that exposure and through the years, you see more and more people are in relationships with wheelchair users. And you're right, when they see us in society, whether if it's in relationships, whether if it's working in different fields out there,
Volunteering, yeah, all the different things, yeah.
it makes sense. And people are like, oh yeah, it's getting normal now. It's getting, so they see us on screen, they see us in different aspects of working.
Yep.
And it's really gratifying. And that just shows just how important United Spinal Association is, because it really not only educates us, but educates the community and different businesses out there.
Yeah.
Of just how awesome ones who are part of our community are, and we can thrive. We can be a part of a great team. And how has that been over the years? Really educating organizations to just look at us and say, hey, give us a shot.
Yeah, it's a multiple pronged effect. I mean, or an effort. So much of it is raising awareness with organizations and companies and for profits, nonprofits. But a lot of it, honestly, Paul, and I think you'll attest, it comes from us. We're the ones that have to speak up. We're the ones that need to be out there living our life and showing ourselves. I think United Spinal Association, we started in 1946, and it started out as an advocacy group. It was a bunch of World War II veterans that felt they weren't getting the services they needed, and they just started to advocate. And I think that the earlier someone with the spinal cord injury understands that they need to be able to be their own self-advocate, the farther they'll go and the more that they'll achieve, just because they're going to speak up. And it doesn't mean you need to be nasty, but you just need to relate to people that, I'm here, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I've been doing advocacy for close to 20 years. I did it in a previous job before United Spinal. So I have a lot of experience with calling on congressional leaders, and it's an incredible thing. And I mean, that's really a top level of advocacy. You don't need to get to that point. Advocacy could be as simple as, and I always tell the story, when I was first injured, because of my injuries, I wasn't able to sit up more than 15 degrees, which is basically nothing. I mean, I had a difficult time sipping soup. That's the degree, for 9.5 weeks, because I was not weight bearing on my pelvis. And then being in a rehab hospital like that, I needed to be turned every 2 hours. I have full upper body strength, but I couldn't do it with the angles that I was laying at and the way that they had my legs positioned. I had casts and braces, and so I needed to be turned every 2 hours. And like, many that have a spinal cord injury, they burn into your brain, pressure sores and weight shifts. So one morning, my dad came in. My dad would come in every morning, and I was crying, and he said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "They never came and turned me. I stayed on my one side the whole night." So my father left the room, and I could just imagine the hell that he wrought on the nursing team. But he wound up coming back to me, and he said, "Nick," he said, "the squeaky wheel gets the grease." And really, that's advocacy. You need to speak up. I can assure you, from that point forward, I was not turned. It happened a couple of weeks later, and I just started throwing things in my room. Might have seemed like I was throwing a temper tantrum, but it was the only thing that I was able to do, and I was advocating for myself. I needed to be turned. I couldn't do it. I needed to advocate for myself. It could be something as simple as having a nurse's aide or a family member or a caregiver give you your medication every 2 hours. You need that medication. You need to be an advocate. You need to be the one. And again, that's the essence and the basis, the basic piece of advocacy. But as you start to advocate for yourself, things start to grow. I love representing United Spinal, but I love representing me and my experiences and talking to leaders and to change anything that I can to make it better for us. In fact, I just finished. January 4th was I just finished the term. I did a 3-year term. I ran for city council and elected in a landslide. I ran in 2018. Won the election in 2018. Was sworn in the first Sunday of January in 2019. I served 1 full year on the township council, and then my second year, I was voted in as the mayor and spent 2020. I was a mayor for 2 months before COVID broke out. So it was a very, very difficult year to be mayor, but it was an incredible experience. And then last year I was the deputy mayor and I was police chief and fire chief for my 3 years on the council. So, and I bring that up because advocacy led me to that. You know, I like politics. I like being involved. I like the community. And again, it's another way that, you know, there was no one disabled in my community that was doing this. So it just gave me an opportunity to show that we're just like everyone else and want to do the same types of things. We want to volunteer. We want to help the community, and we want to excel.
And you know what, Nick, I gotta apologize, man. I should have put some more respect on your name. You're the honorable Nick
No.
LiBassi. So I apologize, my friend, for not putting respect on your name like that.
No worries, Paul. That's no worries.
But it just really shows, Nick, you know, how you didn't allow what happened many years ago to define you. You know, you created your own pathways, and you're a fighter, and you are definitely ones that can help ones in our community to really look and see, hey, this is what can become, you know, if you advocate for yourself, self-advocate. And Nick, what is one thing about United Spinal Association that you feel that maybe the public, ones who are part of the mobility and SCI community need to really be aware of? You know, what's something that you like ones who may be listening to this for the first time, maybe new to United Spinal Association, hearing about it? What is something that you really would like them to walk away with from our discussion?
Yeah. So I think when people think of nonprofits, and obviously working for one, I came from working for a Fortune 500 company. So for me, switching over, I wanted to bring some of my experiences and try to help run the national organization more as a for-profit, not for the profits, but just the structure of it. But I think when people hear nonprofits, they automatically think that, you know, they're money hungry or they're just looking for money. The thing that I would say, first and foremost, with United Spinal Association is every single thing we do. I mean, I'm one of the vice presidents. I'm in meetings all the time. Every single one of our staff members, everything we do is to ensure that our programs offer value to our members. And I think people outside the organization, when they see United Spinal, yeah, they may know that we do advocacy. They may know that we have an accessibility services group. They may know we have chapters. They may know that New Mobility is our magazine. But what they may not know is, in totality, everything we do is really to help the community, and to ensure that our rights are protected, and that you know, we have access to the things that are so important, whether it's transportation, education, housing. Employment is obviously a huge one. So I don't think it's as simple as just one answer, other than if you haven't or don't know a lot about United Spinal Association, I would urge you to check out our website, unitedspinal.org, and just look at the wealth of resources that we have. Again, this is our 76th anniversary. So our resource center does a great job of pointing folks in the right direction should they need anything, whether it's whether they need a podiatrist or legal services, you name it. Our resource center is there to help. And again, that's just one component. So I think in totality, people have to understand or research exactly all the things that we do. But everything that we do is meant to make sure that our community is well represented and taken care of.
Yeah, that is so true. Well said, my friend. And one of the things that I remember before COVID shut everything down, we were all in Las Vegas together for the
chapter leadership meeting. Yep, yeah. Chapter leadership meeting. Yep.
And one of the funniest things that I saw and really enjoyable was the interaction between you and Jim Wiseman. And you and Jim are just a blast to watch together. And you guys have an awesome relationship. And if you can, just talk about, working with Jim over the years with United Spinal and others who are part of the organization, and how that really shows the camaraderie that everyone has at that organization.
Yeah. So Jim and I met probably, I would say, close to 20 years ago. And then when I was asked to sit on the board of directors, I developed a closer relationship with him. And then obviously working for the organization for the past 12 or 13 years, much more so. And when Jim was became our CEO, it was just really great to see him in that leadership role because he cares so much about our community. And just the stories that he tells and the wealth of knowledge. I mean, he's an able-bodied person, but I say it a lot. I've introduced him on numerous occasions, and I mean it when I say that there's very few that don't have a disability that understand what we live, the hurdles that we face, and some of the difficulties we have in our everyday life. Jim truly understands them. I mean, he's taken the time to get to know people with disabilities. He's fought for them legally. Publicly he's fought for them. So the bond is no different. I appreciate you saying that to me. And I do have a very close relationship with him, but anyone that spends time with Jim can see that it's not that difficult to have that type of relationship with him.
Yeah, tell me about it. He's an awesome guy, and under the leadership now of Enzo Piscopo as president now, and Enzo really has that mindset of continuing the vision of this amazing organization. And one thing that struck me just about leadership and everything is that how not only do leadership walk the walk, but they roll the wheels too. I can't say talk. I'm sorry, not walk the walk, roll the walk, and they talk the talk. I'll make something up by that, but in other words, leadership really has freedom of speech when it comes to just the issues that we have, and that just shows the core values that all of you have on leadership and everything. And I just want to commend you guys, for doing that. And Nick, anything else out there you'd like to share with ones about United Spinal Association, about you personally, about the journey? The floor is
Yeah,
yours.
no, I mean, I do want to just touch on Vincenzo. I call him Enzo, and that's accepted. He doesn't mind that. But he started last October or November, and it's really been I don't want to say seamless, but as close to seamless transition as you could possibly have, while yet still transforming a lot of what we do and in a better way. So I think it's important for everyone to know that even though we do have relatively new leadership, our members are in good hands, the programs are in good hands, and in a lot of ways they're going to get better and enhanced and offer more for our members. So on a personal note, Paul, it's been an honor to be here with you, and even more of an honor to call you a friend and to have met you many years ago. I've been traveling pretty much through this pandemic, but I know a lot of others haven't. So hopefully in the short term, we'll get to meet face to face again and spend a little bit of time together.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it, and maybe you and I could be the new Jim and Nick 2.0. No, I'm just joking, but hey, which website why don't you give the website out there for everyone who's listening right now?
Yep, it's www.unitedspinal.org.
Awesome, and Nick, it's been great talking with you. It's been great spending time with you, and looking forward to doing it again when we have some more great things to discuss about United Spinal Association.
Great. I love your podcast. Keep them up. And I look forward to seeing you soon, Paul. Thanks so much.
That was the awesome Nick LiBassi, VP of Partnership Expansion. Really enjoyed chatting with Nick. Just an awesome all-around person and just someone you really, really want to get to know. And don't forget, you can also go to our website, unitedspinal.org. And on our website, it has so much stuff, amazing stuff. And again, if you are part of the disabled community or you know somebody who is, share this episode with them. No doubt, the things that Nick had to say about his experience and what he's doing now, is really empowering, not only to the ones who are a part of the community, but also who are not part of the community as well. They can find out what we go through. And our website is so awesome. UnitedSpinal.org. Well, until next time, folks, please stay well, stay safe. Remember, I love you guys to life, and stay tuned for our Strong Willed Together campaign that's getting ready to launch real soon in February. So take care, folks. Until next time.